All right, let's get into our films of the week, which was my week. Yay, got to pick.
Yay.
Wow.
And I went with a double feature because
Ooh.
Shruti did a double feature, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should put two movies together as well. And I think these two
Mhm.
movies just complement each other so well. And it was hard for me to talk about one without mentioning the other, so I'm like, we should have both of them. And I think one of them is also a must watch before you watch the other one for some reason. It's
Mhm.
just I think it just works better. But yeah, my two films were The Matrix and Kung Fu Hustle. So we could
Ooh.
start with The Matrix because that's the one
Oh
I like. Everyone's
yes.
talked
Oh
about The Matrix
yes.
already,
Oh
so
yes.
we don't need to spend too much time on it. I really want to talk about Kung Fu
All we
Hustle more
gotta
than.
say is Keanu Reeves. All right, thank you.
Keanu
Let's move
Reeves.
on. Um,
And that is The Matrix, ladies and
yeah.
gentlemen.
Yes.
Boom. No.
But yeah, I don't know what you guys actually think about The Matrix because I thought Parthi hadn't seen it yet, and Emma doesn't have a rating up for it on Letterboxd. So
Oh,
I'm
I
like, oh, I
don't.
wonder,
I
I wonder
should.
what they think of it. Yeah, but I chose it because I think when you look back on the last 25 years of like action blockbuster cinema, there are game changers, and the
Mhm.
three that really stick out to me in the past 25 years would be The Matrix, The Dark Knight, and The Avengers for how they changed action cinema for the good and the bad and the
And the
ugly.
ugly. Hey.
Not in that order. Not in that order. If
Not in
you're
that-
gonna associate the words with the
Oh,
movies I
that's
mentioned.
funny. Oh, sorry. I
But
was trying to think of the movie. So the Matrix should be the no. It's fine. We won't dissociate them with that.
but yeah, I like The Matrix is like one of those movies that people are like, oh yeah, I've totally seen it, but like they don't really know when they saw it. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
That's
yeah.
so true. It is one of those movies
That's
that
very
everyone
true.
has seen, but no one really like knows when they have seen it, and it's kind of just existed
Yeah.
in their lives.
yeah,
Although
it's kind of part of like
I rewatched it recently, so I know when I've seen it.
yeah. No, I was about to mention. So it's like part of like the collective consciousness of like pop culture, but and I feel like that was me for like the first like 10 years of my life. Like, oh yeah, I've totally
Yeah.
seen The Matrix, of course.
Yeah.
But I specifically remember like watching it with like my friend at like because their dad put it on, so I'm like I'll watch
Yeah.
it, and I think that was the first time I really like
Mhm.
sat down to watch it, and I really like liked it. It was
Oh yeah,
amazing.
it's iconic. It's amazing. I love it so much.
Mhm.
It's
And that's when
just
I
one of
really
those
bought the
movies.
hype. I'm like, this is
Mhm.
actually good. But yeah, I
It's
want to know what
such
you
a
guys think.
rewatchable movie too. Like it's
Yeah.
such an easy to watch. Like you just put it on and then you get hooked again and again and again. And it's just great. It's so fun. I love it. I don't know. There's not really because I also don't really remember the first time I watched it. Wow. But it's kind of just been there and I feel like it is. You know?
It just is.
It just
It is. It is.
But I don't know how to like describe it. I just always it's just one of those action movies that doesn't suck. Cuz I feel like a lot of action movies arguably suck. I'm not going to lie. But it just balances so much and so well and it just looks cool too. It's another thing. I love it. I love all of it. And it's so smart. World building, man. It's so cool. I just don't understand how people can just like sit there and think of all these like insane ideas, but it's so cool. It's great.
I agree. I also watched it a while ago, but I don't remember exactly when. And it was like when I was half asleep or something, so I didn't really pay attention to it when I did. But yeah, finally rewatched it last night actually. And I like it. It's just that I feel like it's a crime to say that I don't love The Matrix because everyone seems to love The Matrix.
Good.
But like I think there's just a lot of parts that feel very like dragged on like a lot of action movies for me, but that doesn't take away from my appreciation for like the whole vibe of the movie and like how like crazy and weird and creative the whole thing is, and the attention to detail is just like insane to me, like plot wise and also just everything in the world too. So I feel like I have mixed feelings about it, but overall I really do like it a lot. It's just that I feel like a lot of times, like with action movies and things too, I feel like they're constantly trying to have more and more things happen, even though I feel like they could have shortened it, or like there's like fewer things that could happen that would have kept me hooked on it like longer, rather than like keeping more and more action coming, in my opinion. And also for me, I feel like a a lot of stuff with like action movies with a lot of like guns and like a lot of like random combat that's just exactly the same a lot of the times. Like it tends to like make me really numb to what's actually happening, and I'm just like, okay, get it over with. And I feel like that there's a lot of parts in the Matrix that are like that for me too. But obviously there's like the iconic like the bullet dodging and like all those really cool elements that add to it, which is good.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna say, I was
yeah.
like, if you're saying that the Matrix's action scenes are like bland, I was gonna be so insulted. I was like sitting there just like, what is she saying? But then I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Because I was just like thinking of all the scenes and I was like, that is just, it's amazing. It's incredible. Look at that. They
No, I don't.
are like
Okay,
gymnasts.
I'm not mentioned how like most action movies are bad, but like that can be attributed to the Matrix for setting
Yeah,
like the
no, I
standard
can-
for action films, and then
Oh
just,
yeah,
like,
that's
everything
true.
falling flat.
No,
of
that's
it.
true.
Yeah, I think action movies have the fault of where they try to be like other action movies and they forget about originality. And it's just, and they get too caught up on the just trying to get people to watch it rather than actually putting substance into it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of stuff with action movies too is also dependent on like personal taste too. Because for me, like
True,
I feel
very
like I
true.
enjoy, I'm glad that you also like bundled Kung Fu Hustle with this because the action scenes to me for Kung Fu Hustle were so unique and so interesting to look at, versus like some of the scenes in The Matrix that felt like a little bit like okay, I'm getting like used to what's happening in this. So I was pretty like I definitely think it's personal preference for me for what I enjoy in an action movie too. It's not really like the fault of the movie itself. It's just like I am more interested in different types of action versus like what's actually in action movies too.
I
So.
completely like understand what you're saying, and I agree for like a lot of like action movies they can get really repetitive, even though sometimes even if they're like really great, the action can seem like kind of repeated. Like the Raid movies, like I love those movies. Those are some of the best action scenes I've ever seen. But
What movies?
the Raid,
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
like they're,
Okay,
they're
sorry.
it's like an Indonesian like martial arts film, but
Mm-hmm.
those fight scenes are so good, but they're like they kind of hit the same note the whole time. But like the thing is about the Matrix, I don't think they ever hit the same note. I think it's a beautiful symphony of action scenes. Honestly,
I would also agree. I feel like it's I think The Matrix is just so fast paced and just kind of all over the place, but in a good way, not in a like messy way. It's just, and so it just feels like, oh, we're here now. Oh, we're watching this now. Oh, wow, we're here. Oh, okay, we're here. And it's just like constantly jumping back and forth. And even like now when I watch it, I still get that like kind of like my heart is being like clenched during certain action scenes. Even though I know how it's gonna like end up, I feel like it still hits pretty same to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think it's just personal preference for me then. But like I did enjoy it. Like don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it. I think it's just like
Yeah.
some parts of it still struck to me as like, all right, I'm over it. Like I can let's see what's actually happening. I want to know.
I mean, we could talk about like the story, which is kind of like let's talk about the
story's
story.
really cool.
I mean, like
Yes.
computer simulation, like that only gets more relevant by the day, and I think the Matrix of like hits that on the head, like perfectly in my opinion, with the whole
Very
like.
true.
Were you aware of? I feel like everyone's aware of the plot of the Matrix, but
Yeah,
Hard for you to
basically.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So is it none of us were like, oh, whoa, it's this computer simulation?
Yeah.
No, not really.
feel
But I
like
think this
even-
time around, I definitely like caught on to more of like the inner messages they were talking about, like just taking like things going too far and taking over things that are supposed to be like natural, like like technology basically going too far with things, which I understood the first time I watched it when I was however years old, but like
Yeah.
it just struck a stronger chord now. I think especially with
Yeah.
just where we are with tech now.
Very true. Just then it was like, I mean, what, you got your flip phones? It's pretty crazy,
yeah, your
guys.
CD-ROMs, your floppy disks.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh god.
Get ready, the future. And like now, there's so much. It just hits a little bit different. And also, obviously, when you're watching it as a kid, there's certain things that you just don't pick up on,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah.
there is one theme I want to talk about, but just like one of my favorite lines, and it just blows my mind every time for some reason, because I always forget that he says it, but when he does, it just blows my mind. It's when Morpheus is when they're training with Neo, like after the dojo scene, and then Neo's like out of breath, and he's like, and then Morpheus just goes up and he's like, "Is that air you're breathing now?" And then it just like blows my mind every time he says that. I'm like,
that line is so cool. I love that. Oh, that's so fun. Oh my gosh! Wow.
I know we love Keanu, but when we talk about favorite performances, like Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, is every word he says is gold.
I don't think I would say Keanu is the best performance in that movie. I still love him, but I definitely don't think he's the best. But oh my god, wow, yeah, no, that just when you said that, my brain just went. Whoosh. That was
because it's great. It's like he's tired. Oh man, like come on, get up and fight. And then Morpheus is like, "Why are you tired?" It's like your mind type of thing.
I know. Wow. That's, sorry, I'm like, I was just clocked out right now. This is whoa.
I just love how much not even Morpheus, yes, he like reiterates the idea that like everything is based off of what your mind is telling you, but I love how like other people in his environment are also telling him, like how he goes to the Oracle and then there's that kid who's like waiting in the office
the
too.
last airbender with the last spoon bender.
Yes. The last spoon bender. It's so funny.
There is no spoon, she says. And I'm like, honestly, that's kind of cool though. And I feel like she was the one that actually made me be like, yeah, actually, this is like going to be the person that convinces him that this is what's real and what's actually happening. And I thought that was really funny. And also, there was a line that I wrote down that the Oracle said, because I was like, who says this? And you know how she says, oh, and it's all right about the vase, and then he like breaks the vase, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she was like, oh, yeah, I already said it. And then she's like, yeah, that's why I said it's okay. And then she says, what's really gonna bake your noodle later is, would you have still broken it if I hadn't told you?
Break your
and
noodle?
I was like, bake your noodle?
Oh, bake your noodle. I thought it said break your noodle. Even either way, it's just weird.
I don't remember that line at all. But I'll be sure to keep note of that next time.
Yeah, it was just so odd to me, and I was like, that's actually hilarious. And also, it reminds me of like how people, when you tell yourself something so much, even if it's untrue, you just believe it. And that's like the whole like law of attraction kind of thing too, that people tend to have of like, if you so strongly believe in something, or if someone tells you to believe in something without even thinking about it yourself, you're just going to know it. You're going to feel like you know it. But it's actually just questioning every single thing that you believe in to find what's at the root of everything. And that's just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Matrix, man.
There's like a philosophy around this movie. Like
That's crazy.
And I think
like,
that's what helps its age, you know? It's not just action scenes either. There is like actual substance, I think. And one of the biggest like pieces of like substance and like actual like meaning comes from like just the story of the directors, because they were the Wachowski brothers. They were credited as that. But they've gone through they're transsexual basically. So they're the Wachowskis now. They're both sisters. And the whole movie the whole movie can be taken as a trans metaphor. And I think that's really profound. And how the way you picture yourself in a different world is different from how it is in the real world. And that's why the characters are like, they swap between two worlds basically. And I think that's one of the biggest like,
that's
whoa.
so cool.
Whoa.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Wow,
that is incredible.
Look that up after this and just like read about that. That's so cool.
I know.
Yeah, there are a lot of articles that like talk about that much better than I phrased it, but that's basically the gist of it.
I did not know that. Oh, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you know the character of Switch, the one who says like not like this before she dies.
Yeah.
She was actually supposed to be a guy in the real world, and then she would turn into a girl in the Matrix.
Oh.
So it would have helped establish that metaphor even further.
Oh,
but something happened.
Why didn't they? Oh, dang. Do you think it would have been too
time.
confusing or something?
I don't know. Maybe. That could actually be too confusing for audiences.
Or like,
gosh,
they just ran out of time, so they just couldn't put it in there, and they're like, it's fine. That's interesting.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite pieces of like info around the Matrix now, especially.
That is really cool.
The story of the directors, yeah. So they're not the Wachowski brothers anymore, basically. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess we could move into segments now if you guys have anything
That's awesome.
else on.
Cool.
But yeah, so there's like a billion action scenes. Do we have a favorite one?
I like
Talk about-
the one at the end in sorry, I'm just thinking about it. It's so cool with Trinity and they're like they do the flips and it's so cool. Like everyone's shooting at them. That scene's so cool.
the metal detector scene with the pillars and everything.
That's
Is
so
that the scene?
funny.
Yes, that's my favorite.
He's like,
scene.
please
When I was a
remove
kid
any metal
watching that,
objects you have, and he opens his jacket, and it's just
I
everything.
love that scene. That scene is so iconic. I just remember watching that the first time and as like a kid and just being so shocked and like so excited. And I was like, they're so cool. They're so badass. They're so cool. And they were just like, whoa. And I was recently I rewatched it with my stepdad and I was in the kitchen and he's like, "Oh, come quick." And I was like, "What?" And it was the scene and we were both just sitting on the couch just like, "Whoa." But yeah, that scene is just so cool. I love it. I think it's one of the best action scenes in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, no, because that's like a whole sequence, because that's the whole Morpheus rescue, and that bullet time, the iconic bullet time sequence, that's technically part of the same action scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically.
Technically. That's
But,
at the very end of it, so you can
No, but
consider
yeah,
that.
but it just flows
either
so
way,
well.
It's
That's a
great.
great
I love
moment,
it.
yeah.
I know. That's like I do rewatch that scene on YouTube like multiple times. It's in my playlist of movie scenes that I love because I have a playlist. And
Okay, so
it's
that is your YouTube scene.
yeah, so that's like sometimes we say like, oh, that's my YouTube scene, but like this is actually one of my YouTube scenes. So
Parvati, do you want to go?
Is it like YouTube scene or like action scene?
I mean, whatever you want. Like, it can be a dialogue scene, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, part of the fighting, like a fighting part that I thought was really funny is like towards the end when Keanu's like fighting off the other people, and he's suddenly like, oh, I am the one, and like he starts fighting, but he looks so like bored, and he's like hitting
Oh,
them, but
that's
he
so
looks
great.
so like, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like the best part of all of this action for me. Like I was like cracking up at how bored he looked. I was like, yes, he just knows.
No, because he was so ascended at that point. He
I
saw
know.
the code.
he was like, guys, I got this. Don't
And I was like,
worry,
I
got
literally aspire to be at that level of like whatever life throws me. I'm just so bored, like dodging it,
so much
like
self-confidence that you just
so
come off
good.
as like blank.
yeah.
Like you don't even have any like other emotion of like doubt. It's just like, yeah.
I love it.
Neo's rebirth when he like comes back from dying, basically, it's one of the most satisfying scenes ever, I think, that I've ever
Yeah.
seen. When he just switches to one hand, it is
Oh,
great. It's fantastic.
that was
I know
so
exactly what
cool.
you mean. His expression and everything. He's like, I'm just so above this petty like martial arts. And then there's the upgraded bullet time where he just basically stops all the bullets. And,
I
yeah.
think it's like it's cool too because it's like once he decided that he wanted to be the one too, like it just I feel like that was really just like the cherry on top of like, yeah, he knows he's the one. Even if the Oracle told him he wasn't destined to be it, he decided to be the one. And so I think it's just like the cherry on top of like I was able to decide that this is what I'm going to do, and so because I believe in it so strongly, like I can actually do this. And I feel like that's just such a like in an action movie, it's really cool to see it, but it's also just interesting to like think about that in real life, as if people believed so strongly in themselves that they're able to like take that attitude and like use that towards things that they otherwise have inhibitions towards. Like that's so powerful, I feel like. And I feel like I just spent the entire movie making these kinds of connections to like if people just like the movie makes it seem really kind of simple where it's like if you just know you are, because one of the quotes that Morpheus says too is he says don't think you are, know you are, and it's very simply put, but like if you really think about it, like that's such a powerful thing to actually be able to like harness that kind of power. And so I've made so many connections to that like in real life, and it feels like almost inspiring for like just do it, you know? Just don't think about what could go wrong. Just do it. Just think you can and you will. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's just blowing my mind too, because I'm also thinking about the trans metaphor with the
Yeah.
whole film, and you saying that, it totally just makes sense too. with everything
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
Wow.
And choosing your own type of destiny type of,
Damn.
yeah.
Which I love. And yeah, that was my favorite part of the action scene though. But I think one of my favorite scenes that I would definitely go back to watch is like when he's first like showing Neo about when he first plugs in Neo after he rebirths or whatever from the what's the little egg thing they're in when they're like
Oh, like their battery shell or something? Yeah.
yeah, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
once he comes out of that, and then you know how Morpheus like he takes him to this big like white room where it's supposed to be like their mental space and where they like
Oh yeah, it's
conjure
like their
up all
loading
this-
space. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that space because when they transition to that scene, like it's just so silent. Like there's no background noise, there's nothing. You just hear Morpheus talking. And I just love like the reflection in his glasses. It's so cool.
Oh,
Like it's
very
first
true,
shown when
yeah.
he's trying to choose like the red pill or the blue pill, which I love that like that frame is so pretty. But then when he's talking to him in like the loading space too, I just thought it was really cool because you can like see the reflection and how there's literally nothing around them besides each other, but then you see all these things like conjure up and they're just I don't know, it's just so cool because I feel like that's just such a like representative space for what the mind can be too, and just
Oh, yeah,
so many
for sure.
metaphors. I love it.
Yeah, this whole movie is like the mind, like mind over matter type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. There's, is it with Trinity? It's like we need a weapon, and then they just like they load up like all the guns. Is that in this movie or
He
is it
said-
in the other Matrix sequels?
No, yeah, he says
Um,
he says that he needs guns and then they just go whoosh.
And then there's
Oh,
like a billion guns.
Yeah, I love that. It's so
And that's what
much
leads into the please remove all your metal.
fun. So cool. I just
Oh,
also
man.
I remember when I watched it, I just loved Trinity so much. I was like, she's
Mm.
so cool. I want to be
She's so
like
cool.
her. I
so
want to
dope.
be like her. And so yeah, I feel like that's another reason why I
yes.
love that scene too.
I love her costume design. Like everything she wears in the whole movie, I
Yeah.
literally want to wear. It's so nice.
Dude, everyone is
Yeah.
styling. Everyone is
Oh,
styling.
yeah.
in the
They
Matrix.
yes. yes.
Literally every single person in this movie
Facts.
looks amazing
So true.
compared to their real world selves. You know, it's all about how you
Mhm.
think you look. You know, it's all about how you think you look.
Mhm.
And they're all just all
I
like
also-
rugged and bad looking. Not bad looking, but you know, they don't have a shower
kinda
on the ship.
scruffy.
I don't think so. The Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh,
But yeah, you were
God.
saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I also really liked the production design too, cause like I feel like when you first are introduced to Neo and stuff too, you feel like he's in the real world, but not really still because of the people he like hangs around with and like just in general too. I feel like the whole movie, like the mood of the whole movie, including with the production design, makes you feel like you're in this kind of like gross, like dark, polluted world already. And I just enjoy like every part of it because it feels like every part that they're in, it just feels like there's a reason why it looks that way. So like when he first meets Morpheus too, they go to this like I don't know where they are. They're like in this abandoned, like really dusty,
Abandoned building.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and like you see them in there with all their like tech and all their like cool clothes and stuff, and you definitely feel like they don't belong. And then you get he gets taken to the is it called the Matrix? Like the actual world that they're in, is it called the Matrix? Or is
They're
it, like,
already
the
in the
mentality?
Matrix.
Yeah.
They're already in the
right.
Matrix.
Yeah. Okay, so then when they escape, when they're like outside
When they
of the
escape
Matrix,
the Matrix. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, when they're outside of the Matrix, like it still feels like this dusty kind of like old, like gross place, but it's like in a different way. And I just think the differentiation that they create by not changing the mood is so interesting to me with how they do it with the production design. Yeah.
I think the way the movie's shot is so interesting. It's shot like a noir film in the beginning because
Yeah.
it's like this dark, moody with like this kind of like green type of lighting instead of like black and white. They use like green for the code, which is really cool. And it just has this like style, like something's off with the world because something is off with the world.
Yes.
And just the amount of detail they put. Like one of my favorite like fun facts is like they use a lot of twins as background extras to make it look like it's just a computer program copying and pasting people
Ooh.
over and over.
Wow.
So a lot of the extras
Smart.
look similar, and I think that's really interesting. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
But
Man,
yeah, for my
that's so cool.
I didn't. There's so
Sorry.
much to talk about for this movie.
I
I feel
know.
bad.
Mhm.
Like this should have been its own episode.
It's
But
okay.
I'll just go into my two scenes real quick. I also have like a YouTube scene and this like my actual favorite scene.
Mm.
My YouTube scene is the dojo fight because I just like whenever I want to
Yeah.
see some good action choreography, I just put that fight on because it's
Mhm.
so satisfying and it just the like it just is so good. The way it's shot, everything. Keanu doing his stunts too, like it's
Yeah.
great, and he does the Bruce Lee like nose tap.
Yeah.
That's just so
yeah,
satisfying.
yeah.
And you have like that like early 2000s soundtrack playing over the whole fight.
I love
It's just-
it.
So good. So
It's a
good.
lot of fun. And
Hell yeah.
everything Morpheus says in that scene is gold. It's like he reminds me of
Truth.
Yoda. He's just like, don't try to hit me and just hit me or something like that. This is like great, fantastic.
Sorry, it's just great.
That's what
It's
he
just-
says.
No, but the thing is, like, I just pictured, what if someone came up to you and said that? I'd just be like,
I would be
It's
like,
so-
unplug me right now. I must be in the Matrix. If you just said that. To me.
That's great.
But my actual like favorite scene is the subway fight. in my Letterboxd review, I say that's like my favorite hand-to-hand fight scene of all time. And I think a reason for that is all the build-up because the entire movie, the agents are just like unbeatable. And I remember the
True.
first time I like the watch I talked about with my friend's dad.
Mhm.
That was like the agents. I was so scared of them because I was like, how do you even stop this guy? So when Neo finally like doesn't run away and he stands up to him, he's like, and Morpheus is like he's beginning to believe. That's just like it's just such a satisfying moment that if I watch that with like going back on YouTube, it's not as satisfying. Like, I need to watch
'cause
the
it
whole
is
movie.
A build-up. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And just like
This-
that whole
yeah.
fight scene is brilliant. Hugo Weaving's great too in terms of performances as Agent Smith. He's fantastic.
True. Yeah, no, I agree. They seem just so unbeatable. I remember also feeling like that too. I was like, wow, what? How are you doing this? Like, I don't understand. And it really is, I guess, yeah, like refreshing kind of, and you're just like, oh, thank God.
And that's what makes the ascension scene even that much more satisfying because it's basically
Exactly.
the subway scene again, but this time he's got it all figured out, which is great.
Wow. Look at
But-
that movie. So good.
Oh, going back to the dojo scene, I just thought it was really funny. Like the transition to it was really fast because it's like Neo. He wakes up and he's like, "I know kung fu,"
I know kung
and
fu.
then Morpheus
Show
is like,
me.
"Show me,"
Yeah.
and then they're just in the dojo, and I'm like, "That's brilliant. That's
It just
awesome."
feels like two friends being very encouraging of each other. No, it's kidding. You know kung fu? Oh my god, no way. No, it's kidding. That is not how it feels. But
It's just crazy. They just like plug in the information to his brain, and then he's like, "I know kung fu."
I wish that's how studying worked, bro.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's like I need to fly a helicopter. Oh, got you. Helicopter tutorial plugged in, and then
Well,
she got it.
yeah, I guess so. I was like,
amazing.
wouldn't you want to like be able to like?
No, I want to
helicopter?
fight
Okay.
people with kung fu, Emma.
Okay.
I want to know kung fu. But yeah, before we
Yep.
wrap up on the Matrix, I guess we could just shout out performances or any nitpicks. I give the movie 4.5 stars, but
I
it's
would
honestly
give
a
it
5.
4.5.
But it's just
Yeah.
small things. It's just
Well,
I don't
yeah.
want to be negative about the Matrix. It's
I also don't. I don't like.
I will
there's
say
only
one thing.
Oh, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. You say yours. You say yours.
Okay. No, mine was like stupid, but I don't like.
Oh, no,
how
mine
the
is
thing
stupid,
goes
too.
into his belly button. It just makes me uncomfortable.
Wait, you don't like what?
The thing that goes in his belly button.
Oh, the
Ah.
Why his belly button? Why nowhere else?
because
Why can't it
they
be-
closed up his mouth, right?
Yeah, but.
Or
what
no,
about
wait,
his
no, that was in the
eye?
car. Wait, they were extracting it. No, because it was in his stomach, right? So are they gonna like reach into his throat?
Yeah, no, but why couldn't it have, like, been anywhere? Sorry.
They're just-
I can think of a
so
couple worse
weird.
places that could have been in, Emma.
Obviously, but I just feel like the belly button is such a vulnerable place.
I feel like it evokes like a visceral reaction when they take it out. It's like, whoa, that just really just like shot out of him.
Yeah, but I don't want
Yeah.
that.
I like when she's taking it out too, how it like makes that little noise when it hits the bottle and it's all like bloody and stuff. I don't know, it's so satisfying to me.
No, how? Why? Gross. Ew. I hate that scene.
Oh my
That's
God.
like one scene that I probably don't watch. Like, I normally just leave the room because I just don't like it. It's so weird. Ooh.
I feel that. I didn't realize it, but in my head I was like, oh my god, JJ wanted me to watch this movie because there's so much of tripo in it. Like there's so much that's gonna like
Oh,
trigger
really?
me.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
like
that.
there's so many dots everywhere.
Really?
And so many
sorry,
holes
when?
everywhere.
During
Well, okay, so one of them is like when he's coming out of his little like egg thing, and he comes out and all the pipes that were
all
on
over
his
his
body.
body.
Oh god,
And then
wow.
and then
I'm
like
so
another
sorry.
is like right afterwards when he's coming out, he has a bunch of like acupuncture needles in his body too, so and you can see
that's
all like the
fine.
lumps that they make in his skin. And then another one was like the those like the sentinel things or whatever that come
Yeah, the
from
robots,
the
the
sewers,
squids.
and they all their eyes too, and I'm like,
Oh,
stop.
the
Oh,
eyes
okay.
are eyes though.
Eyes are eyes.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Not if they're placed that way.
That's
Oh
fair.
god. And there
Yeah.
it just happened like countless other times too, and I was like, oh god, this is a lot. But it was
I apologize.
handleable.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize there was a lot.
It's literally the whole time I was like, God, JJ just he's just trying to test me.
Wow, JJ,
Jeez.
what a horrible person. Can't believe you. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, should we just say our favorite performances real quick? I mean, you guys say Keanu.
I feel like
Yeah,
it
no, I was
Keanu?
gonna say I was
I don't know.
yeah.
Morpheus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with Morpheus because that's
I would
his
go
role.
with that too. But I love Keanu Reeves. I love him so much.
Because Keanu has so many iconic
Also,
roles.
I love Trinity though.
Yeah, Trinity's
yeah,
great.
I think
Carrie-Anne Moss.
actually I think I like Trinity better than Keanu.
I do too. I really
Yeah.
do. Because Trinity made me go, oh my gosh, I want to be able to be a gymnast and do everything like she
Yeah.
does. Because she's so cool.
And she does like so she expresses so much with like a serious face too. It's kind of like how we were talking about like eye contact acting almost.
Yeah,
like I
drive
feel that
acting.
way. Yeah. I
That's
feel
what
that way
reminds me of
almost with like her
someone I
one
know, too.
expression.
She reminds me of someone I know. Like, she has the same personality, like, to a T of, like, a friend that I have. So I'm just like, oh, I love that. So that's
so
another
cool.
reason. But yeah.
She's also the first one to do like any kind of real Matrix action. Like such an iconic.
Yeah.
Like her first jump in the air when the police officers
Oh.
surround her.
Yeah.
So great.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sorry. This should have been its own episode. We could have talked about the Matrix forever, but
I think I would enjoy it more if I was watching it with other people though.
I agree. It's a very good watch with friends type of movie, I feel like.
Mhm.
Just like, yeah.
I haven't watched it with friends.
Oh, I've
Gosh,
Yeah,
only
same.
I
watched it
should.
with friends.
You're right. I've watched Kung Fu Hustle with groups. It's the
Dude,
fantastic.
that seems like an amazing movie to watch with friends.
I've played it in like a serious type of watch setting in like very casual like background and at like parties too. Like it's like literally
Oh,
it worked
that's
for all those
awesome.
occasions. Like that's how
Good for that
transcendent.
movie, man.
When I was
Kung Fu
watching Kung Fu Hustle, I was reminded that your movie is like Scott Pilgrim too, and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Like I understand why he likes this too.
Kung Fu Hustle is a classic. I like that before I even watched Scott Pilgrim. Like it's yeah. That's the Matrix. But I wanted to bundle these two movies together because Kung Fu Hustle in itself is such like a love letter to like every kind of action movie, but especially like old Chinese like martial arts type of films. And I needed to hear your reactions because I knew both of you hadn't seen it, so I just wanted to get like your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I actually watched both of them back to back yesterday, and I decided to watch Kung Fu Hustle afterwards because I was like, I'm gonna be more sleepy, so I better watch this movie that I don't know. And so like I'm glad that I did because it was just so like cool to watch and so like entertaining. And I think the whole time when I was watching The Matrix 2, I was like, yeah, these like action scenes are okay, but then like Kung Fu Hustle comes in with these super like interesting like ways of combat and just super like interesting shots and like crazy like special effects and things too that are like low key like they're just a tiny bit trashy, but I like them a lot. Like they're so just like cool to look at, and I really like the characters and things too. Just everything coming together was just so entertaining for me, and I'm really glad that this is like a thing that you recommended for us to watch because the whole thing just made me laugh and was just I was like at the edge of my seat the whole time watching it too. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was great.
I liked the action a lot. Like, exactly like what you're saying. Like, the action's really, really cool. All the scenes, like, were really just, obviously, like, unique. But also not at the same time. Like, it felt very different, but also very familiar. In a fun way. And I like that a lot. I thought that was really cool. And I just loved how it just felt like he was getting, every time a new action scene came, I feel like he was getting escalated in a way also.
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't know. And so I loved that, like, part of it. I think that was just amazing, and I enjoyed that very much. I will say I wasn't a big fan of the comedy in it, but
Okay.
I'm comedies are really hard for me. I have always pretty much hated comedy films. I just don't like them.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's why I liked this movie, but I didn't like love it, and I don't think I would rewatch it again.
Oh, interesting.
I can see like why it would be fun to watch with friends and stuff, but at the same time it's just not really my type of thing. I don't really like certain, I don't know, it's hard. It's completely personal preference though. Like it's completely just
No, yeah,
I don't
comedy
like
is hard
comedies.
to like land for every group, obviously.
It is,
People find
yeah,
different
and I
things.
just have never really liked comedies. I've always just hated comedy films, which is
No.
just sad, but I would rather, like, the way I view it is I liked all the action scenes in it. I would have preferred it in a setting like The Matrix versus a comedy, you know what I mean?
Interesting. I feel like I feel like a lot of the comedy is also ingrained with the action scenes, but there is.
Mhm.
I will say that there is comedy that I also don't like. There's a lot of like slapstick in it that I also am
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I just
kind of dated
feel-
humor.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the way I feel with comedies is feel like most comedies are kind of you just sit there and you don't have to think. And it's kind of just, not like, mindless sounds so insulting, but I kind of feel like that's the word. But not in an insulting way. Like in an actual, like, oh yeah, no, it's just like a mindless movie. Like, gentle mindless. I'm not insulting every comedy ever made. But I would rather take my time and watch like a stand-up instead. Because where it's like you take away everything else and it's just comedy. Because I would prefer that over, like, I don't know. I just feel like comedies don't do it for me. So I just want you to know that that's how I feel about the movie. That I like all the action. I think it was really cool. And I enjoyed that. But I didn't really like it.
Okay, that's fine. I was wondering what your opinion would be actually.
Yeah.
But that makes sense in terms of the comedy. I mean, Roger Ebert describes this film as Jackie Chan meets Buster Keaton meets Quentin Tarantino meets Bugs Bunny. Like, and I feel like that basically sums up the movie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It hits all those marks, but it's also such a love letter, I think, to films and like martial arts films in general. It's
Yeah,
like a Saturday
that's
morning
really cool.
cartoon. Like,
It
you
is
know,
actually, yeah. I can
Yeah.
see that. I totally feel that. Interesting.
it's like one of those, like, the beggar, he has a 20-cent Buddhist palm like booklet. I feel like that's this movie. It's like something you see, it's like, oh, this kind of looks trashy and bad. But if you actually read it, it's just so much fun. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with it. And I
Yeah.
know you said like a lot of the humor does seem like dumb because it's like slapstick comedy, but there is a lot of like genuinely like smart sight gags type of humor and a lot of like unexpected like jokes. Like one of my favorites is like when he goes to the town for the first time, Sing, and he's looking for someone to fight one-on-one, and he's just pointing people out, and they all just turn out to be complete like opposites of what he expects.
Yeah.
Like the short
Oh my
guy
God.
is so tall.
I
No, go
okay.
ahead.
I wrote about that exact thing. Because I was like writing down moments that I was really a big fan of, and like he says he's like, I want to fight someone and there's no cheating, and then he like calls on all these people, but he's like, no, never mind, because with the short guy, he's like, hey, you shorty, come like stand up, and then he stands up and he ends up being tall, and he was like, what did I say about cheating? But he didn't even do anything. And I was like, that's so good. Oh my god. Yeah, and also I agree that a lot of like slapstick comedy doesn't sit well with me. So like the beginning of it all, like with the landlord guy and stuff, I wasn't like a huge fan of because I was like, I don't like this that much. But then it like made up for it with like the smart comedy, like what happened later on and stuff too. But yeah, that was like, I think that was like my favorite quote of like the whole thing. He said, what did I say about cheating? After the guy stands up. Oh my, I love that moment.
But yeah, that a lot of the humor just revolves around Stephen Chow, who's the director and star. He plays Sing. That's like from his previous movies, like Shaolin Soccer. I should have given more of a preface before he just jumped into Kung Fu Hustle. But yeah, this was like his big project after like his breakout success, Shaolin Soccer, which I still haven't seen. It was on Netflix for a while, but I always just threw it off. But now it's not anymore, so I'm sad.
Wow,
But
missed your opportunity. No.
I know I missed my like they actually
did,
just
though.
recently took The Matrix off Netflix too.
Yeah, they did. They did
Insulting.
last night, and I was
I
like,
have
oh
it
my
on
god,
DVD.
where am I gonna watch it now? And it ended up being on Swank, so I'm happy about that.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah.
That's
I own
okay.
it on DVD because it's so good.
Yeah, I really need to get The Matrix on DVD. I have the.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think I do. I should. I mean,
Yeah, it's
Blu-ray. I
kind
need
of-
it on Blu-ray.
I feel like this is a side note, but I feel like The Matrix is kind of one of those movies that you forget that you have on DVD, but then it's there and you're like, oh yeah, huh.
Huh, there it is.
Yeah.
I have Inception
Anyways.
on DVD, and I always forget that I do.
That's interesting. You
That's
should have it on
another-
film.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. No.
But yeah, I had a lot written down for this movie that we could have talked about, but we could honestly just go into scenes. But I just like the whole movie. I was talking about it being a tribute. There's so many references that I didn't
yeah.
catch the first time I watched this when I was like 6 years old or something. But now,
I would be very shocked if you
didn't catch
knew.
all of them at 6 years old. I'm so ashamed of you.
no, because I thought
No.
I didn't realize it was like a super comedy. Like when I watched it at a young age, it's like, oh, this there's like a bloody action movie, it must be serious, right? But then when you keep rewatching it as you get older, you realize, okay, this thing is like actually more comedy than it is like
yeah,
serious
that's
action.
what I feel like.
It's such a blend of so many things. Like the first, like it starts off so like intense too. It's like a police, like corrupted police, and this gang goes to save their girl, and then they're attacked by just like this giant wave of suited men, which is like I'm pretty sure it's a Matrix reference to like
Yeah.
the later Matrix movies. And it's like this, he like kills all of them, and it's so brutal and violent. But then it goes straight into like this dance number musical
Oh, I
opening.
love it.
And it's
Oh
such
my
a tone
God.
setter. It's like it's one of those like this is the jumping off point. Like you're either in this or not now. If you don't buy this, if you don't buy these Axemen dancing choreographed as they commit these brutal murders, it just sets the tone for the whole movie. And yeah, I was talking about the references. Like when the three masters die, like the guy's last dying words, he has a lot of like exchanges, and there's like references to Spider-Man, to Casablanca, all of that.
That's
and,
true. I did see the Casablanca one. Oh, I love Casablanca.
And there's that Shining reference at the mental asylum, which is just
Oh
so random.
yeah, that was so.
But it's really funny.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that happens, like I'm watching it, but I don't believe that I'm actually like seeing it because it's just so random, and I'm like, I feel like these are little like mental things I have in my head, but they like put it out on this movie, and I'm like, that's such a weird I think I felt it especially when I saw the Shining reference too, because I was like, wait, so it's there or it's not, or like what? Because I feel like I was looking at it and I was expecting, and I saw it coming out, and I was like, oh okay, and I was like, this is totally normal, but I realized he was like in a mental asylum, and he was like. I don't know, it just felt so, like, dissociative to me, and it's so crazy when, like, a movie can do that to me, because I'm like, that's so weird. Like, they just created this whole tone of, like, feeling for me that I didn't think a movie could do. I don't know. Yeah. Also, on the dancing part, like, when I was writing my notes on it, in all caps, I wrote, dancing, yes, crime montage, yes, axe gang. Because I was so happy about that happening. Oh my God.
I love their little firework to signal for backup. It shoots in the air and it forms little axe,
Yeah.
and then suddenly a billion axemen appear out of nowhere, like
That's
ready
so
to
funny.
fight. But yeah, I wanted to bunch this with the Matrix because it does feel like part of that after wave. You know, after the Matrix comes out, there's all these like imitators. But I think it still has its own identity in a way. Like it still was able to stick
completely.
out from a lot of
feel
things.
like yeah, no, I wouldn't even. I mean, I understand. I like see like the comparisons, obviously, between the Matrix and it, but I feel like it's its own movie at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely, I agree. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird to pair, not weird to pair them together, but it's like weird to say. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just don't think that I would like say that they're kind of on the same caliber of action movie. I feel like they're completely like different.
I agree with that, but also I feel like the pair is a very good complementary pair to each other. Like
exactly what I meant.
I was very much like, these are really weird movies, and I feel like it's not until a lot later in the movie, in Kung Fu Hustle at least, that I realized like why you paired them together too. But
You just
when
straight up say he's the one. And
Yeah,
that's true.
they just say that he's the one. And like when they say that, like it's very like abrupt and sudden. It's like there's literally no build up to it, I feel like. But when
Oh,
it
I
does
think
happen,
there
I'm
is
like,
some build up.
I
We'll
don't
talk about
know.
that scene
I felt
later. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, but like
But go ahead.
when that scene did come up, I was like, "Oh, is this why he was trying to pair these together?" But then I realized like, I don't know, I really enjoyed like how much both of them play off of each other too. Like in my head I was just thinking like, "Oh, maybe like this is a form of like action scenes that I like better, but then this is like a story build up around like the one that also makes more sense to me too, but both of them feel very like reflective off of each other in my head." So I was glad that you did pair them together because I felt like it made me really think about like the idea of the one and stuff too, and just like what it means to both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it would be hard to like critically analyze Kung Fu Hustle, but they both have that hero's journey in it. But to look at the context of like film itself, The Matrix and Kung Fu Hustle, it's like two kids like given the same assignment, but doing it in completely different ways. Because I think both movies are like so influenced by like classic Chinese martial arts films and like Hong Kong cinema, and like Bruce Lee and all of that. But they take them in like completely different directions. Like The Matrix takes more of like an anime type of feel to it, while Kung Fu Hustle's like Looney Tunes, like cartoon style, and both you can tell that there's so much influence to both films. Like they feel so original, but they're also such tributes to things that have come before. And Stephen Chow said he was like inspired by the things he watched growing up making this film, and it does seem just like a kid's dream of a movie. It's like this is the stuff they watch, and this is everything they're putting into a movie. But at the same time, it's still mature enough with all of, like this bloody violence because he's like grown up, and it's like all this weird combination of action and slapstick. But I think that's why these two movies just felt like they had to be together for me because it's just paired so well, and then they both also use CGI action in a very charming way and like a revolutionary way actually. And Kung Fu Hustle being an action comedy is not something we see a lot of today. Like action comedy in contemporary cinema is basically like the Marvel movies, I guess. Like that's basically the extent of
that's weird.
action comedy. Yeah, because like I don't.
Action comedy has changed a lot.
Yeah, because like if you like a movie like Kung Fu Hustle, like you don't see that released today. Like the closest maybe is like Tarantino, but like even then it's like,
no, it's different. I would say I would agree. I don't think there is movies like that really. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I was gonna say maybe in just in the U.S. it's not, but at the same time I'm not as well versed in foreign film, so I don't know if it is. But I know that definitely in the U.S. I feel like it's not really like that anymore. Like there's not really any actions like that anymore.
I think a lot of it struck me very similarly to Kill Bill, but I think it's only like to a certain extent too. Like it doesn't have the same comedic factor. Like Kill Bill doesn't have the same comedic factor to me.
Okay, I thought you said Kung Fu also doesn't have the same comedic factor.
Oh no.
Really confused.
No.
Yeah,
like Kill Bill definitely feels a lot more like serious, but in terms of like how the action feels, it feels quite similar, but it's not the same to me. So I feel like I still haven't seen anything on that.
Yeah. Also
yes,
like
but also Scott Pilgrim feels a little bit more like it feels more animated to me than Kung Fu Hustle does. So I feel like
and it's based off
there's no
of
balance
a comic
of both.
book too.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it kind of gives off the same vibe, though.
No, yeah. Now I didn't even realize that, but now you guys are just like telling me, like both of you, I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of like Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, that's why when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, JJ Scott Pilgrim makes sense.
But I feel like it has such a different flavor than Scott Pilgrim.
It does. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. But if you like kind of strip both movies down,
like the energy, like the pure energy of both films.
Yeah, the chaotic energy.
Same with The Matrix. If you strip that, like it's all of the energies, they're coinciding. Wow.
Yes, they're all very big JJ energy.
Yeah, I guess if someone asked me like the energy question, I could say Kung Fu Hustle too, I guess. But this movie is just so chaotic, man. Like, there's so much. Like, we could get into scenes right now. I mean, we could start with Emma. Sure. Is there a scene you like, Emma?
No,
like,
I don't
what?
like that pressure. Oh no.
I mean, you said you like like which action scene like stood out to you, or is it just like, are they all kind of just one type of?
I feel like, I don't know. 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 I feel like, I they are kind of all just one, but at the same time, I don't know, there are ones that stood out to me. Let me remember. Oh, I liked the one at, like, with the, I can't remember, what's that instrument called?
Oh, I don't know. The instrument guys.
Now
Yeah,
I
I know.
feel like a sad person. I don't even
I
know
have
what
no
that
idea what that
instrument's
instrument is called either. I just call them the blind musician
Oh, now
assassins.
I'm sad. I want to know what that's called.
I don't
just-
think they ever
the
say what it's
intro-
called.
I don't think they say so either, but it looks cool.
No, but I
Yeah.
think I used to know what it was called. I feel like I know what it's called, but at the same time, I have no idea what it's called. But that seems cool. I like that one a lot. I think that one's a very fun scene.
The
Ooh, me
start to
too.
that scene, it starts off like a horror movie, like with one of
Yeah.
the old masters walking away, and then just you see things getting cut in half as he
I
keeps
like
on walking.
that. I
There's a
love
part
that.
with
I
a
thought that
cat
was really
getting
cool.
chopped in half
Yeah.
through the shadows. And then it ends with him just getting decapitated. And it's like brutal, but it's like, whoa, that really just happened.
I really
Mhm.
liked that scene because I was like, wow, it kind of felt a little bit, the action felt a little bit separate from the other action scenes, kind of in a way, like, because the tone was more horror, I guess. But
Mhm.
also at the same time, it was just really cool. I love that. I thought that was really cool. That was definitely, like, the scene that I was like, ooh, okay, I like this.
Yeah, I love
I
that
liked
too.
the instrument, but I don't know what it's called.
I can search it up later if you want, but
I just think instruments used as weapons is just a trope that I
Yes.
really like in film, and I think it's not used enough. Come on, people!
Mhm.
it's used
Instruments are
in
cool.
Shrek 4 with the
Yes,
guy who
it
plays his
is.
flute and then he makes people
Hell yeah.
dance. I don't know why I thought of that, but
Yeah.
Oh, Scott Pilgrim. That music is a weapon in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
another good example. But I just
Mhm.
love, and I feel like there's also a bunch of other movies that do it. But it's like a really cool trope, and I think it's fun. And I like combining different mediums. So like bringing like the actual like music to be there in like the film, and that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
That
I think I
scene is
enjoyed-
definitely my favorite.
I think I definitely enjoyed that scene too because I enjoy like scenes that like using music as a weapon too, but also when the music is pretty ironic like compared to what's actually happening in the movie too. Like the actual music was just so like peaceful and stuff, and it was very
is.
like it
Beautiful
started out really
instrument. I wish I
peaceful
knew
and
what
just
it's
very like very like beautiful and very like serene or whatever, and then like
Soothing.
it's just like a weapon that like the guy like shoots out this like invisible sword or whatever, and that's so insane to me. Like that's such a cool idea, and I think the like irony of it all makes it so like funny to watch too, because you're like, oh haha, they're like trying to soothe people, but in actuality. And like also every time like the landlady would like come out and like complain and be like, why are you guys still playing music? They just like
stop playing.
and then they just like continue and like shoot out more and more swords too. It's so fun to watch that. Oh my god.
And the way those
Yeah.
two characters are introduced is also like this movie has this like common occurrence of like people who seem like they're not powerful at all end up actually being like the most powerful people. And it starts off, those two guys are introduced as like these blind casket carriers. They like come walking out of a building and then Sing and his friend make fun of them. And then it turns out these are like the top assassins in the game right now. And they just they shoot like a whole army out of their like we don't know the name of the instrument. No, we should
Yeah.
have gone that down.
I'm gonna look it up. I can't
Okay,
sit here
you
and not
can do
know
it.
what it's called.
But like
Yeah,
as you can, I
was-
can. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
I was going to talk about like there's an escalation to the action scenes that I really like, and after every action scene, it's like how can you top that? And I feel like they end up topping it each time, because it just seems like the power levels are just ridiculously increased each time. Because like it starts off with these three guys taking out a whole armada of the Axe Gang. It's like how can you even defeat these guys? And then you have these blind musicians come in, and it's like oh these guys clearly unbeatable. And then the landlady with her giant sonic cannon. It's just there's just this escalation that I really enjoy, and it's something that it's essential to action movies. You got to have this escalation, but it kind of plays on that to like a ridiculous amount, which is, I think, really.
I can confirm. I know the name of it now, but also I've never heard the name of this instrument ever, which is cool. But it's called the. I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but it's the zither.
The zither.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zither, and Yeah. Okay. Pretty
Can
cool.
it can it
So
be
the-
played by two people at the same time?
Um.
Because that's how they escalate themselves. It's
Is
like,
it
oh, I
as
need
long?
backup, and they both hold it.
Is it that long actually too?
Yeah. I'll look at the photos. Wow.
The way they just sit anywhere they want to. They just like squat on one leg
I know.
and just put.
Oh,
their
it's
chin-
definitely long enough for two people.
Okay.
It's definitely like it's a pretty cool instrument. Wow. Good for
Wow.
them.
Emma goes and buys a zither now.
I know it's beautiful too. There's a lot of I'm seeing like really pretty ones with carvings
Aw.
on them. And
It sounds so,
But yeah.
but like just the music in the film, I think makes it so unique too, because it
Yeah.
draws from the classic like Chinese like martial arts films, wuxia films, like that classic like operatic kind of score, but it mixes it with like these modern
Mhm.
action tropes with all the CGI action that the Matrix popularized.
Yeah.
hmm
And like it's a unique soundtrack, and the soundtrack's one of my favorite parts about this movie. Like the Axe Gang theme, like just like as soon as it plays when they all walk in, and the
Oh,
final
yeah.
heroic theme when Sing walks out. I guess I'll just go into my favorite scene and then part
Yeah.
can
Go
Sure.
for it.
But my YouTube scene actually is the one scene in this movie because the build-up isn't as dramatic as The Matrix, but it's still super satisfying. The way they all go to one door and then it's like you think he's gonna walk out, but it's actually the Beast guy coming out, and he's actually on the other side. And then the two landlord and landlady, they say he is the one, and the music plays and this camera does this amazing like circular shot around him as he looks around this beautifully designed set that we haven't talked about yet. Such a great production design in this film. It took him 4 months to build that.
Whoa.
And it's such a
Wow.
great like shot of him looking around, and the music that plays is so heroic, and it's like even though he really hasn't had that true hero's journey, that moment enough is so satisfying that I just like to rewatch it just to hear the soundtrack, to see the cinematography, and it leads into a great action scene. And the way he's dressed like Bruce Lee. It's just great. That's my favorite scene in the movie.
I like that
But
scene
yeah.
too because I feel like it's like the first time you see him very different than how you've been seeing him the entire movie too, like this scruffy, really like unruly person who has like no patience for anything, and then suddenly
Mhm.
he's the one, and you're like, whoa, okay. And he's like neat, clean cut, and he's like doing all these cool moves and stuff too. And yeah, but I don't know, like I know we were like I said that I felt like I didn't feel like there was a lot of like build up to it. Like I didn't see it coming at all. But you said there was build up?
What do you mean by like build up as in like him coming out? Because like all the Axe Gang members like approach this one door, and like he's about to walk away. He's like, I got this. And it's like they're about to fight him, and the door opens, and it's not him. And it's like, oh, what? And it's this Beast picking his nose, and then he comes out from the side, and it's like, oh yes, now we're gonna have a fight, because now he's in complete like ascension hero mode, like Neo at the end of the Matrix, and the way the music plays and everything, it's just like this beautiful swell that I really liked. And they proceed that with like this funny like forced symbolism, but it's like played out like in such a like straightforward way that I find it really funny, but really still like satisfying, with the cocoon with the butterfly coming out, and the music starts to play, and then he's like coming out of his like full body cast.
Yeah.
Just like I just love that. It's like, what is he turning into right now? This is
I
crazy.
know.
And
Oh my god,
that
that
when
was
he
so
finally
funny. I was
pops
like,
out.
haha, I see what you did there.
It's just a pretty shot of the butterfly flying across, and then it's like him breaking out of the casket. But we don't see him break out, so that's why it's like we want to see what he looks like. We don't see him yet, and then it's the full reveal later. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's after his whole his head gets smashed into the
His head gets demolished.
Oh my
His
god.
head gets turned.
I didn't
I'm
even
sorry.
like I don't even know how they like revived that man. He was probably like his brain was probably like squished into a million pieces. Oh god.
They send his head to like the third layer of the earth. Like
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I know the comedy in that scene is hilarious. I don't understand, because he tells him go hit them when they're all like locked in. He's like, hit them with this wooden plank, and he's like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to hit him or beat him to death? And then he just hits the guy because he's so frustrated. And then he goes and just tries to hit him, but then he gets destroyed. But even when he's completely like head in the ground, he still picks it up and just boops the guy on the head with the wooden plank. And it's just like, oh, he never gives up. Well, props to him. And then Bugs Bunny escape him out of there.
Yeah. I kind of hated the Beast guy. Like I know that he's like I just didn't like looking at him. I don't know. I was like, ew, every time he was on screen.
Well, that's like all of my uncles. That's what they look like. That's just like, it's the old Asian guy just reading the newspaper all day.
I guess, but I don't know, the way he talked was just so gross, and I was like, stop. But that also makes him a good villain, I think. So
it's it's another one of those unexpected person actually being the strongest guy type of thing. And his line about in Kung Fu, speed determines the winner, and he Matrix catches the bullet with 2 hands.
Yeah,
It's such a great, it's a great scene. But yeah, he is like a famous Hong Kong action star who was retired and he came back just to do a cameo for this movie. So I think even
awesome.
knowing that would have a bigger effect of seeing him like actually be the world's greatest killer.
Oh,
Guy
that's
in
fun.
sandals. Yeah.
that's very
There's so
cool.
many like references that we won't be able to get unless we like
Yeah.
acknowledge them. Because I know there's a lot of director cameos too, and they're sprinkled throughout. So and it's like I don't know who is
I
who.
feel like, because I was Googling, like, the movie, and when you Google the movie, then next to the title of the movie, it just has a bunch of different movie names, obviously, because people are looking up, like, the references. So, like, that obviously just shows, I feel like there's just so many. There's so many.
Yeah, I just feel
It's
like the
fun.
entire thing is just a love letter to movies. It's just, and it is just such a casual watch for me. Like it's just like a fun movie to put on. Like if you don't know what movie can appeal to a crowd. I mean, if Emma's in the crowd, maybe not, but no. But I feel think there's stuff to enjoy. Like there, even if you don't like the comedy, you can like the action.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's
too.
still stuff to enjoy.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out this scene, but it's a comedic scene, so I don't know if that will. But one of this scene kills me every time. It's the knife throwing scene when they try to assassinate the landlady.
My heart jumped every single time he gets stabbed. Oh,
Really?
and then
Do you like
oh
action?
my god!
Do you
I'm
like
like-
the gory action then?
It's
I
not
don't-
even
okay.
gory. It's just ridiculous.
No, yeah, I guess, yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh
My favorite
god.
moment is when his friend takes the knife out, and he's like, and it's like, oh, sorry, and he just puts it back in.
He's like, "Oh, is this the same knife? Oh, must not be." Sticks it back in. Oh my
And then
god.
the whole snake part afterwards, it's like, you know what? I'm
Ew.
already in the worst. What could happen? And he just whistles, and then both bite it. And then that leads into the scene with his giant CGI lips, which is
Ew,
like
those are
disgusting.
disgusting.
I guess we could go into nitpicks here. I mean, my biggest problem with it's a lot of gross out humor, but that's just Stephen Chow's brand, so I understand why it's there. But it's part of the flavor of the movie. But I can look past it. But at the same time, it's like some of this is a little too much for me. But yeah, that's the comedy I didn't really like, the gross out comedy, because that's very juvenile for me. I know I set the bar low, but even that's lower than that. But
Yeah, I feel that
I guess
too.
that's the limit. Were there any Tripo in this movie that you didn't?
No, no. In terms
Okay,
of
good.
Tripo, it was fantastically avoided.
Yay.
Which is great. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really loved watching it. Also, I think I was not a huge fan of the lollipop girl part of this movie too, because I was like, that's so random. I don't know. I could have done without it, I think, because I was like, this feels like a really weird, like, oh, but there is also love in this, so just here you go, kind of thing. Like,
But
we're
it's not
trying to
even. They
appeal
don't
to-
even like kiss at the end though. It's like
What do they do?
They
Do
turn
they just
him.
like?
They turn back into kids and they walk back into the candy.
Oh
store.
yeah, okay. I liked that part, but also I felt like it was just not visited enough in the movie for me to. Like,
I
actually
agree
be
with you
like-
that it seems kind of random, like out of nowhere. But I think when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, they kind of set it up earlier than I thought they did. But yeah, I get what you mean, because she's mute too, so she doesn't really say much because she can't.
Wow.
For hand signals.
Whoa, JJ, are you
That's
trying to
No, but
say
I
something?
think it's necessary for Singh's character to have this, like, that's what really takes him over the edge type of thing. That's when he sees her and he robs her little ice cream store.
I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't do it for me, but I was like, okay, why not? Because like the whole movie feels kind of absurd anyway. So like when you just add in that element, I'm kind of like, yeah, I guess you could just put it in and it goes.
Yeah, I think it also fits the tropes of like action movies to have the romance. Like
Yeah.
even The Matrix's romance, that's like my least favorite part of the movie, because it's Trinity like,
same.
oh,
Yeah.
I love him, but it's like they spent
That's
like 2
fair.
days
Every
together.
time I think about like The Matrix, I completely take that out of it. Like,
Mhm.
I think of her as such an independent person, but pretty much she's not. But in my brain, I do. So
Yeah, because I feel like
I
I
would
feel like
like
it,
it to be independent. I think that'd be
yeah,
cool.
no, because I feel like Trinity, like you see her and you're like, oh yeah, she like knows exactly what she's doing. She doesn't need anybody else. But like the entire time, like her dialogue says, like her action says she's very independent, but then her dialogue says she's really dependent on Morpheus and Neo, and I don't like that. And also like the fact that like the Oracle told her she would fall in love with Neo or whatever, and then
Yeah.
and that he would like stay alive too. Like I don't know, I just felt like that was kind of like that's not what I expected the Oracle to tell her too, especially in the part that she like says it to, because like they're at the train station too, and she's like, this is the part that doesn't come true, and I'm like, what do you mean? But then it has nothing to do
Oh, the
with
subway.
really,
Like train station. Yeah, the subway.
yeah, and I'm
I was
like,
like,
what?
train
And then that ends up,
station?
I know, and then that ends up being like the thing. I was like disappointed that that was what the Oracle's message was too. 'Cause I was like,
It's the Christian symbolism in the movie where the Trinity revives the one because her kiss brings him back. It's more of the
Wow.
movie's philosophical
Wow.
teachings. No, see, that's why I think Kung Fu Hustle like completely parodies like the transcendent religious like philosophical stuff when he like jumps up in the clouds and then the Buddha, and then that's when he does his super awesome.
oh,
palm
I love the palm move. That's so cool.
move. He's like stop, and then like his palm imprint on the side of the building. He does it
Yeah.
twice. That's crazy,
Oh.
dude.
That was so good. Ooh,
But,
I really like the beast, like his little like lotus flower stabby thingy was so like satisfying to watch him stab the landlord and the landlady.
They
The first
blocked the
time?
first two. They blocked the first two attacks. Like it opens up, they block
Mm-hmm.
that, and then it shoots out, and they catch it with their mouths. But then he just stabs them again. Yeah, he's a cheater. He has to surrender, and then that's how he tried to beat Sing the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, Mr. Beast, the YouTuber. But yeah, I was gonna mention something, but we went on that. Oh wait, oh yeah. Have you guys seen the Matrix sequels? Like
I
Matrix.
thought you were
No,
gonna
I
say, have
haven't.
you seen The Matrix? And I was like, we just talked about it for
Buddy.
like an hour. And now I understand. No, I've seen the second one. I haven't. After that, no.
Okay,
I
they're
haven't
pretty
seen
bad, but
Yeah, I know that, but
No, yeah, but I think one of the big reasons is like the romance between Trinity and Neo is like the forefront of both those movies, and
bad.
it's just not.
That's like most sequels, though. I feel like most sequels are
I
based on
also
like
feel
the
that
love
way.
story between the two that like sparked in the first one, which I absolutely hate. For the
I mean,
most
you
part,
gotta
Shrek
build
2
on
is
the
still
relationship.
better. Shrek 2 is good
do.
because that's what the whole
I
story
was
is
gonna
kind of
say
about. But
Shrek 2 is not just about the relationship, but it's
Yes.
about his inner insecurities. It's
Yes.
about families not accepting you. It's about loving yourself before you can love someone else. It's
Yes.
about being accepted by not only yourself but others. It's just wow.
I could
It's
talk.
also-
Wait,
it's
I
also a
should,
crit-
this should be like my episode that I do.
It's also a critique of like modern Hollywood as well.
That's-
Shrek 2,
yeah. That's
Far,
so
far
true.
away.
God, I love it.
Funky Town. Funky Town's one of the great.
So
like,
good.
The inclusion of that there is one of the
Perfect.
best needle drops in film.
So good. Oh my god, that movie. I'm gonna rewatch that tonight.
I rewatched it a few
Oh.
days ago. It was so good. Oh, beautiful
that.
masterpiece.
There's a
Masterpiece.
Matrix reference in Shrek.
Oh yeah,
feel
the
like
first
everyone-
Shrek in the first
Yeah.
Shrek movie.
What?
See, now
That
that's
scene's amazing.
that's not
They're-
whatever. It's fine.
The leprechauns, aren't they? What are they? No, they're Robin.
They're
what
Robin
color are
Hood.
they?
Robin Hood and his men
Yeah.
in tights. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
And then she does
I
the
think-
Trinity jump.
Oh.
The
yeah,
Trinity
I
jump
like
spin
when
around.
she
Okay,
does
yeah.
that. She's
Yeah,
cool.
the Matrix references. No, that Matrix had that whole fallout from like for a while.
Oh yeah,
because that
for
was
sure.
like the peak of action cinema.
That was.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, see, that's why I think Kung Fu Hustle is like a Matrix, like not parody. It is kind of a parody, but it's like a tribute in a way.
Yeah.
That does it in its own style still.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I just like watching it because it is something that really doesn't exist today, which is
True.
sad. But and then again, I can see why. But
Yeah.
it seems like such a breath of fresh air nowadays, especially because of the lack of this kind of original martial arts action comedy that
Yeah.
seems to have gone extinct.
I think one thing too, like after watching both of these movies too, like and them talking about like the one and stuff, I was thinking about all these like dystopian like book series and like movies that have come out within the last few years too, like Harry Potter and Divergent and like all of these things of like it being like an entire world depends on one person to save it kind of thing.
The chosen
And
one.
I was just and I was just thinking about like
The
how
one in a million.
yeah, like
I am
there's
the
that.
one in the million.
Although
and the
in
guy
Harry
just
Potter,
starts
there's
punching.
technically 2.
Yeah. Which I like.
So
But I was just thinking about how
Neville.
like that's such a like recurring theme in so many like sets of stories, but
Yeah.
only a few stories actually strike out to you in those ways. Like to me, I feel like Harry Potter sticks out to me for a certain way, probably just because it has like more of
So good.
I have more of an attachment to my childhood for it. But then for some people, it's the Percy Jackson series. For some people, it's the Hunger Games and stuff too. But then like
Oh my
The
god, say
Matrix?
Star Wars.
Star Wars, I'm sorry.
Ew. No, I was kidding.
Yeah,
because
but
I feel like
this-
that's the cliche hero's journey in
No,
Star Wars.
yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say Star Wars is the hero's journey for sure. Same with like
Right.
Lord of the Rings. I would argue those
Uh-huh.
two are different.
And
Those
The
two are
Matrix. The Matrix
not.
is also basically the hero's journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but also I feel like, but what we're talking about, like the chosen, like
The chosen one?
the one, like that is a.
Well, I mean,
trope
that is The
I feel
Matrix.
like the Matrix. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think the Matrix started that. Is what I was saying.
Oh, really?
But then,
Like the one? Well, Star Wars was before The Matrix.
yeah, but I feel like, I don't know. I didn't get that as much from. Star
And Lord of the
Wars,
Rings is
but-
before Star Wars, too.
But
Harry
that's
Potter
what I'm
was
saying.
written before then too.
No, but I'm saying, oh my god, I'm saying Star Wars and Lord of the Rings don't follow that as much. They follow the
Oh.
hero's journey, and I don't feel like the hero's journey is the same as the
Okay.
one.
As like the
Because the hero's
savior.
journey
Well, then that's
can be
like
anyone.
Christianity. The like one like chosen one. I feel like that's been around forever. That's like quintessential
Mhm.
storytelling.
Well, yeah, but I think the Matrix brought it into action film, which when like they brought it more
Oh.
into
Interesting.
like Hollywood. I feel like it wasn't really a common thing. I feel like it was typically more. I don't know how. I just.
It's because Neo's name, if you rearrange the letters, it's the one.
Wow.
What?
Neo
That's
also
kidding, I already
means
knew.
new. And the reason why I know that is because the word neo-Nazi.
Oh God.
Oh, but
Yeah.
I didn't mention this earlier. When you talk about how the Oracle says like he's not the one, maybe she was correct. Like some people theorize she was
I
correct
also-
because he
yeah.
dies and then he comes back. So that Neo she was talking to wasn't actually the one, but the next version of him. But I like your interpretation about like it's still like he didn't listen to her.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like he set his mind out to do whatever.
hmm Yeah, but I think just watching both of these movies really made me think about like the concept of like the one and how like it's this destined like person that's supposed to like save all of humanity and stuff. And I don't know, like I feel like there's just so much like you said, it's like a staple of like storytelling for choosing like this one person that's supposed to be like the person who determines the future of like everyone else too. And I don't know, it seems like a crazy idea to me, but I think a lot of movies pull it off better than others do. So
I agree.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah, like that's why I feel like when I say like dystopian tales and stuff like The Hunger Games and like Divergent and stuff don't really stick out to me as much just because they all seem like the same thing versus like things
Yeah.
like The Matrix and Harry Potter and like Kung Fu Hustle and stuff. Like it feels very individualized because of the way that it's set up too. And I think if people are gonna think about creating stories like that, they should really like find ways to individualize it rather than like making it another of the same stereotype kind of. But yeah,
I get
because I
what
think
you're
it definitely works in some cases, but it definitely doesn't in others. Because I'm like, really, you're gonna rely an entire world on this one person when everybody else is actually definitely capable of the same thing. So yeah, like I just don't like the idea of it being like, oh, this one person is the only person in the world when there's a bunch of other skilled people too. This one person, because he's born a certain way, is the only person that can fix all of this. But I think like the ones that do stick out to me, the reason why they do is because it's something that the person can also control too. It's not just like, oh, I was born this way, so I was destined to do this thing. So yeah.
I see.
Gotta love Greek mythology for setting up that like
Yeah.
literal ideal, because that's like the fates. That's literally that every story that we have now has sprung from Greek mythology, so that's like another thing.
Yeah, the Matrix sequels kind of like they try to explain like Neo. They try to because like it's like the seventh edition of the Matrix, and they always needed a person to like reset it. I don't know, the sequels are such a mess. The Matrix sequels are not good at all, bro. Kung Fu Hustle is my Matrix sequel.
Nice.
No, but like Kung Fu Hustle, I think it's just a straight up like parody of the one, because like it's kind of like he is kind of born with it, but he at the same time he's not like saving the world. It's not like he was destined to save the world. He's just the one in a million Kung Fu master.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I found interesting about like the whole Kung Fu master thing, it's kind of like representative of like cinema at the time, because a lot of martial arts movies were kind of dying out, and the movie kind of represents that with like old masters, like there's not really new kung fu anymore, because like all the masters are like old people. So it's like this, like Stephen Chow, like Sing in the movie is the representation of Kung Fu Hustle. He's like the new martial arts film in a way. It's just my interpretation of that. But yeah, it's cool. An interesting conversation, the whole chosen one. That's just a common trope in cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's the Matrix and Kung Fu Hustle.
Nice.
I'm glad you guys kind of like them.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to hear your reactions to it. I just thought it'd be a nice pairing for, yeah. But,
I like when we don't agree on the same things too, because I feel like we provide a good range of views on stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just not a comedy person. I'm sorry.
Explains why you don't like Adam Sandler.
I never have. Exactly.
The Kung Fu Hustle's comedy is not even different. Comparable to Adam Sandler.
But like,
yeah, true.
I just never have been a comedy person. It's not like I saw one movie and I was like, "Oh, this is it. I'm done." No, like it's in my blood. No.
I also heard there's like a lot of like puns that we can't catch.
That's also true.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen like reviews where it's like the original like Chinese is actually, I think it's Cantonese because it's Hong Kong, but I think there's like stuff in there we can't catch. But you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I watch a foreign film or like a foreign language movie, I always wish I spoke it, because there's like so many things you can't catch, like little like sayings that people say too, that just are not translated well. But
I know
it's fine.
But yeah.